One final question, if I could. Should the board decide to either set this aside or not agree to this particular company, will the employees be without a 125 plan?
The employees, well,
or will it continue through American Fidelity?
We would have to bring a board action to continue with American Fidelity. If we'd have to get a quote, I mean, we'd have to negotiate with. If the thought is to renew with American Fidelity, we would have to negotiate with them, and then we'd have to prepare all the, go through the normal contracting process and get that to you by December 5th, which I don't think we can do.
And Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Stallings and his staff, Kimba and others in the HBC have really done an excellent job in the last 18 months of, and you heard about it tonight, of controlling health benefit costs and improving our processes on how we enroll online. I've enrolled online, my wife's enrolled online, and it's a pretty simple process. Where we are running into some problems where people have some browsers that don't work as well as others, but you can also use the phone system. But Mr. Stallings felt strongly that this process needed to take place. And so that's where we're at today. And I agree wholeheartedly, and I've told CSCA folks who have brought this to my attention, that we want to make sure that we include as many people in the process steps as possible, and that we'll guarantee that that happens in the future. But Mr. Stallings and his staff felt very strongly that we needed to go through this process now, and this is the recommendation they're coming. You as a board have the right to say yes to it, no to it. If not, we've heard that we may have a problem getting it to the 5th board meeting, but the decision is yours. But Mr. Stallings is not here. He's on vacation. He did keep me abreast of this process and felt strongly that this needed to take place.
I still have some. Go ahead.
Dr. Williams.
As I understand it, my understanding, the CSCA will still have access to American Fidelity and their products.
Yes.
Okay.
They can have access to any of the products they sell.
Okay.
But not to their 125. Is that correct?
Employees,
I'm sorry, is that correct? If they chose to go with American Fidelity for their cancer rider or whatever, they can do that, but they can't do the 125 through American Fidelity. Is that correct?
That's correct. If you approve this action, the 125 would be administered by FEMC.
Very good. Other questions, comments?
Yes, I want to try to get my head around this. So over the summer, you were, and correct me where I'm wrong, over the summer your department was so busy that you got behind in the timeline on making this decision. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm not sure when the issue came up to decide to make this change, but I can just tell you the activities that we did during the summer, and so I'm sure
so
that
because your department was busy, you skipped the HBC process because you needed to make a quick decision. And now, okay, go ahead.
I would not characterize it that way, sir.
Okay.
We worked very hard to take care of priorities, and so when we had the opportunity to look at, when we had that window of reprieve to look at the 125 is when we moved on it. All the other stuff, sir, takes time. It's sequential order, and if we miss timelines, then we miss the whole string of work that we have to do.
Didn't we miss this timeline in terms of involving the HBC? Didn't we miss that timeline?
We don't have a mandate. We have no requirement to send anything through the HBC. Do we try to do that? Yes. When we can, we will do that. But there is no mandate to do that.
Okay. So normally you do that.
Yes.
And then you got busy this summer. And then so the process was sped up, and that normal process was circumvented. And now we have a board item in which I'm being told that if we fail to approve it, then folks will lose their cafeteria plan altogether. So I'm just uncomfortable with
That's not correct, sir.
That's not correct?
No.
Okay, so what will happen if this is not approved?
Mr. Ellis, if I may intervene, we had two speakers at the stand, and I think they validated the comment that I made. There's a lot of unhappiness about the process, but there's not unhappiness about the end result.
I'm sorry, Mr. President, I still have a question that I would like an answer for.
What's your question, sir?
I'm sorry. What, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. I apologize. I'm gonna have to come, you're gonna have to come back to me. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Questions, comments?
I'm sorry, I'll come back and I'll talk to you later, Kemba,
Okay.
about that. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, given the concern over this issue and the timeline that we have to deal with it, can we deal with this in a emergency session so that we would give time to take a look at this and maybe call the board back into special session so we can deal with it?
That's a good point. I think I heard Kimba say, or we need to ask her, we don't want our employees to be negatively impacted, and we have a December 5th deadline. Is that correct, Kimba?
Our table is to have open enrollment starting December 11th. In order to have that, I have to have all my materials mailed by December 6th. In order to have that, I've got a number of steps to do between now and December 6th. We have to have open enrollment in December for the plan to renew on 1/1. And I've got no time. I've got zero time. I've got to move on this stuff.
So, I'm sorry, so that gets me back to my question. What's going to happen if we don't approve this tonight? What will change?
If we don't approve this, then we will have to we'll have to find a way to renew, select a vendor or renew with American Fidelity, and bring it to you probably maybe on a retrospective basis. I don't know, but I can tell you, if I have no way of getting open enrollment materials out to people. I don't think that you really have the option, because I just don't have that opportunity.
That's my
Mr.
problem
President,
with
let me
this.
ask, Mr. Bartlett, are you in the audience? Yes, sir. Would you please come to the podium? The question is, if the board, because this was an RFP process, that, so you went out to bid and folks made the decision based on the information that would be best for the district. If the board chose not to support the action of the business department on this item, what would be the process, for example, to keep it status quo with American Fidelity? What would we have to go through, and what would be the timeline so that folks could, because you need to address the issue for people getting out of the program and people coming into the program during the open enrollment period of January 1?
Right. If we chose not to approve this contract, and a decision would have to be made and a process would have to undergo to determine who we're going to contract with. And once that evaluation has been done and another contract or this contract has been decided, then we would have to enter into contract negotiations with them on all the terms and conditions of their contract. Once we've concluded that process, then we'd be able to agendize a new contract for the board. So as we know, the agenda time for the December 5th board meeting is closed and is being prepared as we speak. The other agenda in December is the 19th, which would mean it would have to have all contract negotiations and everything completed by the first week in December, contracts executed, signed by the first week in December with whoever we're going to do with, to present that to the board on December 19th. However, then that leaves you no open enrollment period to have a plan in place for January 1.